welcome to Solving Systems of Equations. I titled this 3 by 3 by 3, meaning I have three equations and they all have three variables each. Okay, so we're going to be using the elimination method to solve this equation. All right, and how you want to begin this is you want to pick two equations and just pick a variable to eliminate with those equations. So right here, I see that I have a z at the top and then a z at the bottom. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make one of those z's be negative. So I'm going to keep the top equation exactly the same. I'm going to go 2x plus y plus z equals 12. I'm just going to use that top equation. And then the bottom equation, now all the signs are going to flip. Negative x plus 4y minus z equals positive 21. Okay, and now I'm going to add those two equations together. And so my z's are going to go away. I'm going to get 2x minus x is x, y plus 4y is 5y, and 12 plus 21 is going to be 33. Okay, so now I have one equation with the z variable eliminated. What you'll want to do now is go back and eliminate the z variable with another equation. Okay, so I'm going to use the top two lines. So you can reuse this equation to help you eliminate the z a second time around. You just can't use the first and third equation again because that wouldn't really make any sense. You already eliminated the z that way. So I'm going to use the first two lines, these two. And so I see that this is a z and that's a 2z. So basically I need this to have a negative 2, the top equation to have a negative 2. So I'm going to take this top equation, multiply it by negative 2, okay? So I'm going to have negative 2 times 2x, that's negative 4x. Negative 2 times y, that's negative 2y. Negative 2 times z is negative 2z. And negative 2 times 12 is negative 24. All right, then I'm just going to copy down that middle equation as it was written. 5x plus 3y plus 2z and equals 37. Sorry. And then I'm going to add these two together. So my z's will eliminate. I have negative 4x plus 5, that's 1x. Negative 2y plus 3y, that's 1y. And negative 24 plus 37 is going to be 13. All right, so now I have two equations where the z variable is missing. I'll want to work with those two equations and eliminate one more variable. So looking at this, I have a x and an x. So really, I can eliminate those x's if I had a positive x and a negative x. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply this blue equation by negative 1, and that'll produce negative x minus 5y equals negative 33. And so I'll add those two equations together. My x's will disappear. I'll get y plus negative 5y, so that'll make negative 4y. And then I'll get 13 minus 33, so that's negative 20. And so I'm always going to separate a number and a letter by dividing them because negative 4y means negative 4 times y. And so the opposite of that would be to divide them. And so dividing both sides by negative 4 will produce positive 5. So I get y equals 5. What you want to do now is you'll want to plug that y equals 5 into an equation, but you'll want to plug it into one of the equations with two variables. So I could plug it into, oops, sorry about that. I could plug it into this equation here. I could plug it into that gray one. I could plug it into that red one. Just pick one of the equations when we were working along the way that only had two variables, and that's going to help us figure out our x variable. So I'm going to pick that red one that said x plus y is 13 because that's a pretty simple equation. X plus y is now 5 equals 13. And I know that 8 plus 5 is 13, so I can just pencil in that x equals 8. Okay? And at this point, now you want to go back to one of the original equations. It could be any one of those first three lines and just plug in your x and your y values. So I'll just look at that top equation. So my top equation, 2x plus y plus z equals 12. I'm plugging in 8 for x and 5 for y. So I have 2 times 8, that's going to be 16, plus 5 plus z equals 12. And so 16 plus 5, that makes 21. So I have to figure out 21 plus some number z equals 12. So it's actually going down. All right. So to figure that out, I can just get rid of that 21 by subtracting it to the other side. 12 minus 21 is going to produce negative 9. And then we have our final answer. Okay. So my final answer would be 8, comma 5, comma negative 9. All right, so basically um, we had to pick two equations, eliminate a variable, pick two other equations, um, eliminate that same letter, and then work with those two equations and eliminate yet another letter, and then it's just a matter of plugging it back in, okay? So I'm going to do that same thing on this second example right here. Looking at this, uh, you know, it might be easiest to eliminate the z's yet again because this top equation has a plus z. This is minus 2z minus 3z, so not going to be that much work to eliminate the z's. So yeah, let's do that. So the top equation has a plus z, so if it ended with a 2z, I could pair it with that second equation. So I'm going to multiply the top equation by a 2, and that'll give me negative 6x minus 8y plus 2z equals negative 32. And then I'll just copy down that middle equation of x plus 11y minus 2z equals 30. Okay, let's add the two equations together now and see what's left over. So the z's cancel, negative 6x plus x, negative 5x, negative 8y plus 11y is 3y, and then negative 32 plus 30 is going to be negative 2. Okay. So now I want to focus my attention on like say these middle two equations. Um, and so I have a negative 2z and a negative 3z. Okay. I know 2 and 3 they both go into 6. So what I want to happen is I want one of my equations to end up saying positive 6z and the other one to end up saying negative 6z. So I'm going to multiply this middle equation by, I guess, negative 3. That'll give me a positive 6z. And then I'm going to take this third equation and I'll just multiply it by a 2. And that'll give me that negative 6z. So let's see, I'll just zoom out a little bit. And, whoa, this got all messed up. So I'm going to do negative 3 times x, negative 3x, negative 3 times 11y is negative 33y. Negative 3 times negative 2z is going to be positive 6z, and negative 3 times 30 is negative 90. And then I look at my third equation with 2 times negative 8x, so negative 16x. 2 times negative 6y is negative 12y. And 2 times negative 3z is negative 6z. And 2 times 13 is 26. So I'll add these two equations together. This will give me negative 19x, negative 33y minus 12y, that's going to be negative 45y. And then negative 90 plus 26 is going to be what, 54, 64? Yeah, 64, negative 64. Okay, so now I have to look at this equation and this one. All right, I need to pick a variable to eliminate. So does 5 go into 19? No, it doesn't. But does 3 go into 45? Yeah, I know 15 times 3 makes 45. So that's what I'll want to do. I'll want to take this equation and multiply it by 15. Okay, and that'll give me a positive 45y that I can use to eliminate. So I go 15 times 5, negative 5x, excuse me, is negative 75x. And then 15 times 3y is 45y, and 15 times negative 2 is negative 30. So I'll take those two equations, I'll add them together, and that'll produce, whoops, that'll produce negative 94x equals negative 94. So if you divide both sides by negative 94, they'll cancel out, giving you x equal to positive 1. Okay? So what you want to do is, same thing we did before, go back, look at one of those equations that you had earlier, like this one, like this one or that one or that one, that has only two variables. So you can use that to figure out the y variable. So that purple equation with the negative 5x, that has the smallest numbers. So that's what I'm going to plug my x equals 1 into. Okay, so I went ahead and I plugged in my x is 1 into that purple equation of negative 5x plus 3y equals negative 2. And so negative 5 times 1 would obviously make negative 5 plus 3y equals negative 2. And so that negative 5 cannot combine with the 3y any further because it doesn't have a y with it. So you should do the opposite thing and send it to the opposite side. So that's going to mean I'm going to plus it over. And so I'm going to get 3y equals negative 2 plus 5 is 3. And I know that 3 times 1 is 3. So I'm going to say y equals 1. Okay? And so now I have two answers. X is 1 and y is 1. What you should do is turn your attention to one of the original equations that has three variables into it. It doesn't really matter which one you choose. I'm going to choose that top one if I feel like that's got the easiest one to work with. But it really doesn't matter. So it says negative 3x, x is 1, minus 4y, y is 1, so minus 4 times 1, plus z equals negative 16. And so I go, okay, what's negative 3 times 1? That's negative 3. Negative 4 times 1? Negative 4. Plus z equals negative 16. All right, so I'll continue my work over here on the side. I didn't give myself a lot of room. Negative 3 minus 4, that's going to be negative 7. Plus z equals negative 16. And so I go, okay, how can I get rid of that negative 7? I know I can add that over because it can't really combine with that z because it doesn't have a z with it. So I add it to the other side. Negative 16 plus 7 is negative 9. And that's what z equals. So once you get z equal to 9, negative 9, excuse me, you have all three of your answers. So we just state our answer as an ordered triple. X is 1, y is 1, z is negative 9. And yeah, that's how you do elimination with